The rain was pouring in sheets when Raymond showed up at my doorstep, soaked through, shivering like a stray that forgot what warmth felt like. I hadn't seen him in 4 years. Not a single call, no letters, nothing but the quiet silence of a man who'd made a choice and stuck with it. And now, here he was, standing in front of me, like the years hadn't ripped me apart from the inside out. I stared at him for what felt like a whole lifetime, arms crossed, heart pounding so loud, I thought he might hear it over the storm. "Virginia," he said, voice rough, lower than I remembered. That name in his mouth felt too familiar, too wrong, like someone wearing clothes that didn't fit anymore. I didn't respond. I just stepped aside to let him in, not out of kindness. God knows he didn't deserve that. But because I needed to see what this was about. What made him crawl back now, after all this time? He walked in like he still remembered the layout. He did. Nothing much had changed. My living room still had the old bookshelf he helped me put together, the coffee table he chipped with his boots, the spot on the wall we swore we'd repaint and never did. I hated that he remembered. I hated that I did too. I shouldn't. "Be here," he started, glancing around like the past was closing in on him. "You got that right," I said, walking past him toward the kitchen, my tone flat. "So why are you?" He didn't answer right away. I poured myself a cup of tea, didn't offer him one. He didn't deserve a warm drink. Not after what he did. "I messed up," he finally said. I let out a soft, humorless laugh. That's the understatement of the year. He sat on the edge of the couch, shoulders heavy. I thought I could live without this, without you. I tried. God, I tried. But I couldn't. "You did," I said sharply, turning to face him. "You did live without me. You chose to. Don't act like you just woke up one day and realized I was gone. You were already halfway out the door the night Cynthia called." He flinched. Good. He should. That wasn't what it looked like. I raised my hand, cutting him off. Don't insult me by dragging out old excuses. I'm not 23 and naive anymore." There was silence between us, thick and loud. I sipped my tea, watching him like he might vanish if I blinked too long. Part of me wanted him to. The other part hated how badly I used to need him. "I'm not here to beg," he said, eyes fixed on the floor. I had to see you. One more time. You already saw me once." I snapped. "In the rearview mirror when you drove away." He stood then, pacing a little. The storm outside cracked louder, wind howling through the trees. I thought I loved Cynthia. I was stupid. She was everything I thought I wanted. Polished, safe. But she didn't know me. Not the way you did. I smiled bitterly. And that realization took 4 years. He looked at me, eyes full of something that might have been regret, or maybe just old guilt. "She left me, if it matters." "Doesn't. I never stopped thinking about you." "You did," I said quietly. "You just don't want to admit it. And now you're here, digging up ghosts like they won't ruin me all over again." Walked closer, too close. I didn't move. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. I saw his lip twitch like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Maybe even he knew he had no ground left to stand on. "I'm not yours to come back to," I said, voice firmer now. "Not anymore." His hand brushed the edge of the table, like he needed something to hold on to. "Is there someone else?" I didn't answer, not because I owed him silence, but because Bruce's name wasn't meant for him. "Not tonight." Raymond gave a soft nod, like that was the confirmation he needed. "I just wanted you to know I was sorry." "Okay." He waited, like I might say more, like I might give him a piece of hope to cling to. But I didn't. I walked to the door and opened it, rain still slicing through the night. He looked back at me one last time. "I loved you, Virginia." Too late, I said, and then he was gone. The house was quiet after he left. The kind of silence that doesn't bring peace, but makes your skin crawl. I stood there by the door for a long time, just staring at the rain, feeling something sharp, twisting in my chest. Not love, not anymore. Just the wreckage it left behind. I didn't cry. I thought maybe I would. 4 years ago, Raymond walking out would have broken me. Hell, it did. I remember lying awake at night, wondering how he could just leave. I kept waiting for a sign he missed me, that he regretted it, but all I got was silence. And eventually, I learned how to stop checking my phone, how to stop waiting. I rebuilt, and now, here he was. Like time meant nothing. Like the pain he left behind had just paused and waited for him to come back and press play. I closed the door and locked it this time. Bruce came by a few hours later, just like he always did when I had a bad day. He didn't knock. He knew better than to ask permission when I was in one of those moods. He walked straight in with 2 paper bags and that tired smile that always made me feel grounded. "Rain won't let up," he said, shaking off his coat. "Got your favorites, dumplings, and that soup you pretend not to like, but always finish." I managed a soft smile. He placed the bags on the counter and turned to me. "What's wrong?" I didn't answer right away. I just leaned against the wall, arms crossed, heart still a little too tight. He came back. I finally said. Bruce didn't need a name. He knew. "When?" "Earlier tonight." He nodded. Expression unreadable. Bruce never panicked, never raised his voice. He let people speak when they were ready. That's what I loved about him. He didn't try to fix me. He just stood beside me while I did it myself. What did he want? Closure? Regret? "I don't know," I said, voice low. He said he was sorry, that he chose wrong, that he never stopped thinking about me. And I looked at Bruce, really looked at him. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't full of grand gestures or loud declarations. He was steady, honest, the kind of man who fixed a broken faucet without you asking and remembered how you liked your coffee. The kind who held your hand when you had nightmares, but never asked you to explain them. I told him it was too late. Bruce gave a small nod, but his eyes stayed on me like he was searching for something. "Are you sure it is?" "Yes," I said, more certain than I'd ever been about anything. He left when it mattered. You stayed. That got a flicker of emotion in his face. Just a flicker, but enough. He stepped closer. Just enough to feel his presence. Not enough to crowd me. "I won't ask what you're feeling right now," he said, "but I'm here, whatever you need." I reached out and took his hand. It felt real, solid, honest. "I need you to stay." He nodded and squeezed gently. "Always." We didn't talk much after that. We sat on the couch. Dumplings. Between us, the storm slowly quieting outside. My head rested on his shoulder. And for the first time that night, I exhaled without a knot in my throat. Raymond was a chapter. I closed myself. No begging, no rage, no final kiss in the rain. Just silence and a door that didn't open again. But Bruce, he was the quiet kind of love, the kind that built something steady after the storm. Still, that night, long after Bruce had gone home, I found myself staring at the mirror. Not crying, not even angry, just thinking. Because no matter how sure I was, part of me still asked, "Why now, Raymond? And what the hell does he really want?" I didn't sleep much that night. My body was tired, but my mind kept turning like gears rusted from too many rainy seasons. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw Raymond's face. Older, yes, but still him. Still the man who once made me believe love was permanent. Still the one who taught me how easily it could be ripped away. The next morning, the world looked washed clean, like the storm had taken all the weight with it. But I knew better. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window as sunlight filtered through the glass. Bruce texted around 8 a.m. A simple, thinking of you. That was him. No pressure, just presence. I texted back thank you, but didn't say much more. I needed to clear the fog in my own head before I leaned on anyone. Around noon, I heard a knock again. Not Bruce's knock. Too soft. I stood up, heart in my throat, already knowing before I even opened the door. Raymond. This time he wasn't wet. This time he brought flowers. Lilies. My favorite once upon a time. Before I stopped keeping track of little things like that, I didn't let him in. I just want 5 minutes, he said. Why? I asked, standing in the doorway, holding onto the edge like it might keep me from doing something stupid. You said what you came to say. He looked tired. Not physically, but in the way people look when they've been carrying the same guilt too long. Because I didn't come back for closure, Virginia. That was a lie. I came back because I want to try again. I stared at him, blinking. The nerve of him. The absolute nerve. Try again. I echoed, my voice sharp. You think this is something you get to reboot like a broken computer? I know I don't deserve it, he said quickly. But I can't keep pretending you're just part of my past. You're not. You're in everything. You're the song on the radio that ruins my day. The coffee I drink that doesn't taste right. The bed that's too cold even when it's warm. Poetry, I muttered, stepping back. Do you rehearse this in the mirror? Or does it just come naturally? He didn't even flinch. I know I sound pathetic, but I had to try. I crossed my arms. What happened with Cynthia? You said she left you. She did, last year. Said I wasn't present, that I still had one foot in a memory. She wasn't wrong. I gave a bitter laugh. So this is what I am. A fallback plan now that your perfect match didn't work out. No. He stepped closer. You were never a backup. You were the original plan. I was too much of a coward to stick with it when it got hard. You weren't a coward, Raymond, I said. You were selfish. You had a woman who loved you without conditions, who believed in every stupid dream you had. And the second someone shinier smiled your way, you left. You made me question everything about myself. His face twisted. I know I broke you. No, I said, voice steady now. You didn't. You cracked me, but I put myself back together. And you don't get to waltz in now and pretend your timing isn't an insult. He opened his mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to beg, but I didn't give him the chance. There's someone else, I said. He didn't sweep me off my feet. He held me up while I learned to stand again. Raymond went quiet. He nodded slowly, jaw clenched. Bruce? Yeah, Bruce. He looked like he was swallowing nails. Do you love him? I didn't hesitate. Yes. That one word hit him harder than all the others combined. He stepped back. The flowers drooped in his hands, like they already knew they were unwanted. I'm sorry, he said again. I nodded. I know. He stood there for a moment more, like he was waiting for something, but nothing else came. No twist. No miracle. Closed the door before he could say anything else. Then I leaned against it and let myself breathe. Raymond was gone, and this time I hoped he stayed that way. But I knew this wasn't the end, because a man like that, he doesn't just disappear. Quietly, a week passed, and I didn't hear from Raymond. No calls, no texts, no uninvited knocks on the door. For a while, I let myself believe that maybe he'd finally gotten the message, finally realized there was no space left for him in the life I'd built. But deep down, I knew better. Raymond had always been the kind of man who didn't give up, not because he loved too much, but because he hated losing. Bruce noticed the change in me. I was quieter, more distracted. He didn't push, but he felt it. One night while we were cooking dinner. Well, he was cooking. I was drinking wine and pretending to help. He looked at me and said, "He's not gone, is he?" I paused, knife in hand, halfway through chopping bell peppers. No, not really. Bruce didn't look surprised, just sad. You think he'll come back? I think he's already planning his next move, I said. Raymond doesn't take no easily, especially not from me. Bruce turned off the stove. Do I need to be worried? I looked at him, heart aching. I don't want you to be. That's not the same thing. I put the knife down and walked over, wrapping my arms around him. His chest was warm, his hands steady against my back. I felt safe here. I chose this man. I wasn't confused, but even in his arms, I couldn't pretend the ghost of Raymond wasn't circling. He hurt you, Bruce said quietly. And now he's sniffing around because he sees you happy. That's not love. That's possession. I know, but knowing and feeling are two different things. I pulled back and looked up at him. What do you feel? He didn't look away. Protective, but not jealous. Not yet. Because I trust you. It hit me harder than I expected. Not the words, but the belief behind them. He wasn't challenging me. He was standing by me, like always. But Bruce wasn't the only one watching. 3 days later, Cynthia showed up at my work. She waited outside, leaning against her sleek black car, like a scene out of some melodramatic soap opera. She was just as I remembered, flawless, confident, not a single hair out of place. I'd never hated her, not even when I had every reason to. Hating her would have made it too easy to blame her, instead of Raymond. I stopped in my tracks when I saw her. You've got to be kidding me, Virginia, she said, like we were old friends catching up. I didn't move closer. Why are you here? I figured you'd rather hear from me than find out another way, she said coolly. Raymond and we've been in touch again. I felt something cold ripple through my spine. Excuse me, he called me, said he made a mistake. Asked if I'd consider meeting him. I blinked. He told me you left him. Oh, I did, she said with a thin smile. But men like Raymond don't really let go, do they? I didn't answer. I didn't want to give her that satisfaction. I told him no, she continued. But I thought you should know. He's not chasing you because he finally realized your worth. He's chasing you because he's spiraling, and he hates being alone. I crossed my arms. And why do you care what I think? She smirked. Because when he starts losing control, he gets reckless, and you deserve a warning. Her words were like ice, and deep down, I knew they were true. Raymond didn't want me back because he loved me. He wanted me back because I'd stopped needing him. And something about that scared him more than losing me ever had. Cynthia turned to leave, but paused, glancing over her shoulder. Be careful, Virginia. You may think you closed the door on him, but sometimes doors don't stay locked. I didn't reply. I just watched her drive away, heart thudding hard against my ribs. Raymond was unraveling, and something told me he wasn't done yet. It started with little things, subtle enough that someone else might have brushed them off. A voicemail with no message, just heavy breathing before the click. A bouquet left on my porch with no name on the card. A song playing in my cars. Bluetooth that I hadn't added to my playlist. Our song, the one that used to make me cry back when crying for him, still made sense. I knew it was him. No one else would be that bold or that cruel. He wasn't coming back to fix anything. He was trying to remind me that he still existed, that no matter how far I thought I'd come, he could still reach me if he wanted to. Bruce noticed. Of course. He did. "You've been locking the windows again," he said one night, his voice calm, but edged with worry. "I like the air still." I lied. "You jump at every sound." I didn't say anything. We both knew what this was. He sat across from me, hands folded, voice low. "Virginia, do you want me to talk to him?" "No." "Then I will." I shook my head quickly. "No, please." That's exactly what he wants. Bruce narrowed his eyes slightly. "What do you mean?" "He's not trying to win me back. He's trying to make me feel watched, controlled, afraid." I swallowed hard. That's what this is about. He wants me to know that even if he can't have me, he still owns a part of me. Bruce leaned back, jaw clenched. "He doesn't. You know that, right?" "I'm trying," I whispered. A couple of days later, I came home and found the front door slightly ajar. Nothing broken, nothing stolen, but something had changed. My photo frame, the one of me and Bruce at the lake, was turned face down on the mantel. I didn't call the police. There'd be no prints, no evidence. Raymond was too smart for that. He wanted me rattled, not rescued. So I did the only thing I could. I packed a small bag and went to Bruce's place. He didn't ask for details. He just opened the door, took the bag from my hand, and pulled me into a long, grounding hug. And for a while, I let myself breathe again. But even in Bruce's bed, with his arms wrapped around me, I couldn't fully shake the feeling that Raymond was still watching. And then, as if fate wanted to remind me who I was dealing with, he crossed the line. It was a Sunday morning when I found the envelope. It had been slid under Bruce's door sometime in the night. My name was written in Raymond's handwriting, messy, rushed, like he was either drunk or desperate. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It was me, taken from outside Bruce's window, sleeping. Felt my knees weaken, and Bruce caught me before I hit the ground. He stared at the photo for a moment too long before pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the police," he said. I didn't stop him this time, because this wasn't love. This was something else entirely. Obsession, control, and I knew now I wasn't just dealing with a broken heart. I was dealing with a man who had nothing left to lose. The officers came quickly. 2 of them. One older, calm, clearly trying not to make it worse, and the other younger, sharp-eyed. With a hand never far from his belt, they looked at the photo, asked the questions they were supposed to ask, nodded, in all the right places, but I could see it in their faces. They didn't think Raymond was dangerous. Not really. Not yet. "You have a history with this man?" the older one asked. "We lived together 4 years ago. He left me for another woman. Now he's back, and..." I swallowed. "I think he's watching me. He left this photo last night." I don't know how else he could have taken it. Bruce stood beside me, arms folded tight. He hadn't spoken much since the envelope. His whole body buzzed with tension, the kind that doesn't explode, but simmers, waiting. "We can file a report," the officer said carefully. "Technically, he hasn't broken any laws yet, but we'll document this. If anything else happens, you let us know immediately, and maybe think about installing some cameras." "Already done," Bruce said, voice sharp. They left soon after, promising patrols, though I didn't believe it. I knew what the system was like for women who sounded too emotional. I wasn't bleeding. Nothing had been smashed. It would take more. It always took more. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch, watching the street through the curtain slit, heart hammering like a warning drum. Bruce had tried to convince me to go away for a few days. Take a break, let him handle it. But I couldn't. I couldn't run. That would be letting Raymond win. The next morning, I found Bruce sitting in the kitchen, scrolling through something on his laptop. Security footage, he said before I asked. He was here last night. My blood turned cold. He turned the screen to show me. The timestamp read 3:12 a.m. The footage was grainy but clear enough. There he was, Raymond, standing in Bruce's backyard. Just standing, not moving, not trying to break in, just watching, for almost 20 minutes. Then he turned and walked away, like it was just another part of his routine. I felt sick. This is escalating, Bruce said. You know that, right? I nodded. I want you out of here. I'm not going to hide. This isn't about pride, Virginia. This is about safety. I'm not letting him scare me out of my own life. Not again. Bruce stood, walking to the window. He stared out, jaw clenched. I'm trying to respect your strength, but this guy's unhinged. He's not just playing some ex-boyfriend. Mind game. He's planning something. I know, I whispered. The next day, I got a text from an unknown number. You look peaceful when you sleep. Reminds me of before. I dropped the phone. We took it to the police again. Showed them the footage. The message. They gave me a case number. Promised a detective would follow up. But we both knew it wasn't enough. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did Bruce. We sat in the dark together, a baseball bat by the front door, every light turned off, waiting, because Raymond was no longer trying to be loved again. He was trying to remind me that he still had the power to undo me. But what he didn't know, he wasn't the only one ready to break. The night air was thick, like even the wind was holding its breath. Bruce sat by the window, quiet and alert, while I stayed on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me. Not for warmth, but because I needed something to hold. My phone buzzed. A few times, mostly from friends checking in. I didn't answer any of them. Around 2 a.m., Bruce turned to me. I don't think he's coming tonight. I nodded, but my heart didn't settle. I'd learned that Raymond didn't move on our schedule. He moved on his own, when it would hurt most. Bruce finally closed the curtain and walked over. Get some sleep. I'll keep watch for a few more hours. I almost said no. Almost said I couldn't rest until I knew. But my body was too tired to argue. I laid down with my back to him. And after a while, sleep dragged me under. I woke to the sound of glass. It wasn't loud, but it was enough. Bruce was already up, reaching for the bat. I followed, heart hammering. The sound had come from the backyard. We both froze when we heard it again. A low thud, like something falling against the wall. Then a voice. Raymond's voice. I just want to talk. Bruce didn't hesitate. He stormed toward the back door, flipping on the motion light as he yanked it open. Raymond was standing there, pale in the floodlight, hair messy, eyes wild. He looked thinner, unshaven, like obsession had been eating him alive. He held something in his hand, a photo frame, one of mine. Bruce stepped forward. You need to leave, now. Raymond looked at him like he barely recognized him. You don't belong here, he snapped. You think this is real? You think she's really over me? She is, Bruce said calmly. You're not welcome here, Raymond. Raymond laughed. A sharp, broken sound. She's mine. You're just keeping her warm while she forgets. I stepped outside then, bare feet on the cold concrete. That's enough. He turned toward me like I'd spoken some secret code. Virginia, you don't mean this. This thing with him, it's not real. I know you. I know what you really want. I stared at him. No fear, just fire. What I wanted was a man who wouldn't cheat, who wouldn't disappear, who wouldn't try to crawl back when he realized no one else would save him. You're not that man. His face twisted. You don't get to rewrite history, I said. Raymond took a step forward. Bruce moved in between us instantly. I said. Leave, Bruce growled. Raymond's hand twitched. He dropped the photo frame, glass shattering across the pavement. She's lying to you, you know. She called me that night. She wanted me to come. That was the moment I realized the depths of his delusion. I didn't call you, I said. You did. In your heart, you wanted me to. Bruce looked at me, eyes full of rage and disbelief, but not toward me, toward the man who was now swaying, on the edge of reason. Then came the sirens. Blue and red lights spilled into the yard as a patrol car screeched to a stop. One of the neighbors must have called. 2 officers got out fast, hands on holsters. Raymond didn't run. He just stood there, arms raised slowly, like he thought this was all some dramatic misunderstanding. They cuffed him, read him his rights, and as they led him away, he shouted over his shoulder, "She still loves me. She just doesn't know it yet." The door shut, the sirens faded, and just like that, he was gone. But he'd left something behind. Not just fear, not just a broken frame. He'd left a version of me I no longer wanted to carry. The version who'd once loved him, who'd waited for him, who'd believed his lies. Bruce turned to me, voice hoarse. "Are you okay?" I didn't answer right. Away? I just nodded slowly. But something inside me was still trembling. Because deep down, I knew that might have been the last time Raymond came for me. Or it might have only been the start. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. The kind that feels staged. Like life was holding its breath just to see what I'd do next. Raymond was gone. Locked up at least temporarily. The officers said there'd be a court date. Probably a restraining order, but they couldn't promise much. A man who hadn't laid a hand on you yet was still, legally, a whisper. Not a threat. Not until he screamed. But for now, it was over. I sat in Bruce's kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug I didn't remember pouring. The sun came in soft through the blinds, and the world looked normal again. But inside me, things had shifted. And once they shift, they don't ever go back. Not all the way. Bruce came up behind me and rested his hands on my shoulders. "You slept," he said. "Did I?" "For a few hours." "Longest stretch in days." I nodded, barely feeling the heat of the coffee anymore. "Do you think he'll come back?" Bruce's voice was calm, but firm. "If he does, he won't get near you. That's a promise." I looked up at him. "I'm tired of needing to be protected." "I know." That's all he said. He didn't offer me speeches or hollow reassurances, just stood there with me in the silence I was trying to reclaim. Later that day, I went back to my house. Alone, I needed to. Not because I wanted to prove anything, but because something in me had to look around and see that it was still mine, my space, my life. I stepped through the doorway like I was meeting an old version of myself who still lived there. Everything looked the same. Couch, books, photos on the mantle. Bruce had put the lake picture back in its frame, but it all felt different, like I had finally outgrown it without realizing. I sat down slowly, stared at the wall for a while, then pulled out my phone and started writing. I didn't know what the message would be when I started. I just knew it had to be said to the girl I used to be. He didn't break you. He tried. He left cracks. But you sealed them yourself. You're not waiting anymore. Not for love. Not for apology. You're moving forward, and he no longer gets to follow. I saved it to my notes. Didn't need to send it anywhere. It was for me. 3 weeks later, Raymond pled guilty to trespassing and harassment. A slap on the wrist. A warning. He didn't fight it. Maybe even he knew there was no redemption left. The restraining order came through. He was to stay 300 feet away from me. No contact, no approach, no nothing. I knew how flimsy those rules were, but I took the paper anyway. A line in the sand, if not a wall. He never showed up again. Not at work, not outside the window, not in shadows of voicemails or camera footage. And still, every creak of the floorboard at night had me holding my breath. But the fear softened. Eventually, Bruce stayed. Through the quiet, through the healing, he didn't rush me, didn't ask me to erase what had happened. He just made space for the version of me that was still figuring out how to feel safe. Months passed, the leaves changed, and one morning, I stood on my front porch with a coffee in my hand, breathing in the cold, fresh air. Bruce stepped out behind me. "You okay?" "For once," I said, smiling faintly. "I think I am." He slid an arm around my waist. "You think he still thinks about you?" he asked, after a long pause. I shrugged. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter." "Why not?" "Because I don't think about him." I meant it. He found me again, but I wasn't his to lose anymore. And the woman he left behind, she didn't exist anymore.